Blessings, namaste, and happy new year, everyone. I'm spiritualist, psychic, astrologer, and medium Ray Sette. I'm trusting that everyone enjoyed a warm and wonderful holiday season. We are still in our eclipse season. Our solar eclipse took place on December 26th, and our next eclipse will be a lunar eclipse, and that will take place on January 10th. Let me first begin by stating that we begin our year actually not necessarily on January 1st at midnight. You see, at the astrological level, our days begin at the moment of sunrise. That is the starting point of any day. And our day is measured at the astrological level from sunrise to sunrise. So with that said, on January 1st at 7:11 a.m., that is when the new year actually begins astrologically. And we calculate that chart for Lubec, Maine, because that is the first location in the United States that sees the sun rise. So actually we begin our new year on January 1st at 7:11 a.m. here in the United States. The chart that we cast for New Year's Day will always give us a Capricorn rising. That is the sign that the sun is transiting at this time. Whatever sign the sun transits, that will be the sign that will be rising at sunrise, because it's in the same sign. So there is a concentration of Capricorn energy at this time. We have Mercury, Jupiter, the Sun, Saturn, and Pluto all in the sign of Capricorn. Capricorn represents, among many things, our career, our profession, our goals. I also observe Capricorn to represent our higher purpose. In the natural zodiac, Capricorn resides at the 10th house, which is at the highest point, the pinnacle of the astrological chart. So I observe that is really being our one of our highest, greatest achievements, our higher purpose. And you see, so many of us have been given opportunities to recognize a higher purpose, a greater calling. Specifically, what I've noticed that since 2008, many individuals are being inspired to recognize this higher purpose, this higher calling. And in these last few years, we are being given greater clarity as to what that might be, and also to prepare to demonstrate that higher purpose, which certainly will be a very prominent element, opportunity for us to be so as we move through a year of great clarity, which is 2020. And also I suggest for us to recognize that in order for us to be clear with anything, whether it's something that we are uncertain about within ourselves, or as to what the higher purpose might be for something that is unfolding in the outer world, especially as it is doing so right now. In order for us to see that clarity with anything, we need to allow ourselves to be detached from whatever preconceived outcome we may have regarding that clarity. We need to allow ourselves to be very objective with what Spirit will be showing us. I've been suggesting for many months now that we do not tell Spirit how to do its job. Spirit knows exactly what it needs to share with us so that we might receive clarity regarding anything that we might be concerned about, and that will also serve a greater purpose for us, whatever that might be. And when we detach from whatever outcome we might believe needs to happen, then we allow Spirit to do its work. We allow Spirit to be exactly what it needs to be to show us all that we need to know so that we can truly understand whatever might be unfolding will be serving a greater purpose for every one of us. Now, we are, as I said, we still are in an eclipse season, and our next eclipse takes place on January 10th. I've spoken many times how with the eclipse seasons, sometimes a certain eclipse will prepare us for the next eclipse season, and the next eclipse season will be in June and July, where we have 3 eclipses coming together. Many times eclipses just happen in pairs, but in June and July we have 3 eclipses. We have a lunar eclipse on June 5th and July 4th, and the solar eclipse is on June 21st, which coincides with the summer solstice. The more predominant, significant eclipse will be on July 4th of 2020, especially since it coincides with the birthday of the United States. So certainly, as we approach the next lunar eclipse on January 10th, which is the one preparing us for the July 4th eclipse, certainly, especially in the United States, we are being prepared for some monumental shifts taking place, all of which will serve a purpose for every one of us. Now, with the January 10th lunar eclipse, again, we have that concentration of Capricorn energy, but what is emphasized at that lunar eclipse is that Saturn and Pluto are forming an alignment with one another. We call that alignment a conjunction. Is when 2 elements come together at the exact point, as does the sun and moon with the new moon. Whenever two elements come together, it indicates the beginning of a new cycle of experience. When the sun and moon come together on a monthly basis, we begin the new lunar cycle, which lasts from month to month. But many times when outer planets come together, it indicates the beginning of a longer cycle of experience. Now, Saturn and Pluto have been enjoying this dance with one another for quite a while, and that exact alignment will only be coming together one time. Many times when there are these alignments that come together, we have 3 experiences where the alignment is exact. The first time the alignment comes together, it prepares us for whatever it is that is being generated at the time. The second time when it comes together, it generally connects with a retrograde phase with one of the planets, and it gives us an opportunity to really reflect on what's been happening with this specific alignment. And the third time it comes together, the energies of that alignment have been solidified and everything is moving forward. And I'm keeping this explanation very, very simple, just so not to confuse you, but just to kind of give you another understanding how all of this works at the astrological level. However, with Saturn and Pluto at this time, the exact alignment is only happening at one precise time, which it's 2 days after the eclipse, but the energy is so very concentrated at the eclipse, and it has been what we refer to as being in orb with one another, when the energies are very much coming together yet not solidified. We refer to it as being the energy as being within the orb of influence, and usually about a degree or 2 before the exact alignment. Now, with the Saturn and Pluto connection, Pluto represents great power. It also connects with great destruction. And in order for anything to really understand its greatness, whatever might be interfering with that clarity needs to be dissolved and destroyed. You see, specifically since 2014, every one of us on a personal level have been offered the opportunity to really know our power, our creative power of evolutionary divinity, and how every one of us has at our fingertips the blessings to very much be the master of our destinies, and how we are very co-creative, especially how we are co-creative with spirit, with the universe. And as we are moving through these times, we are being offered many opportunities by Spirit to apply that knowing. And in order for us to fully recognize and embrace that knowing, we have been given opportunities to dissolve, especially the ego that may interfere with that creative process. And certainly these experiences have presented much fear, but that fear is yet another opportunity to dissolve the fear. Much fear is being released and has been being released in the outside world. The Capricorn element represents world leaders, government, religious leaders, whatever that might be, but it also connects with large corporations, banks, institutions, all of those elements which have continually suppressed and controlled the majority of the population are losing their power. And that Saturn-Pluto connection, remember, Pluto will dissolve and destroy whatever doesn't serve a purpose. Capricorn represents those elements, the large corporations, the banks, the government structures, all of which have not served a purpose for the greater good. And Saturn being the ruler of Capricorn, connected with Pluto here, all of those elements which do not serve a greater purpose are being dissolved. Structures which no longer have stability are also being dissolved, and we need to allow ourselves to really trust this process and not allow fear to factor into, to interfere with the process of creative evolution that is really happening right now. Remember, all these experiences are opportunities for every one of us to know our greatness. And sometimes we need to allow ourselves to not necessarily have any preconceived notions as to how all of this will unfold, and to trust the creative process. The moon at the time of the lunar eclipse, it's in the sign of Cancer, and it's opposing all of that Capricorn energy. Remember, a full moon culminates, it brings to form, it allows everything to certainly very much come together, but it's also a time of release. As we approach a full moon, we always suggest to allow ourselves to be very anchored, very grounded. Work on your own personal clarity, clearing the essence of your being in whatever form that resonates with you, so that the release, which sometimes is very necessary, will come together, will orchestrate itself with ease and grace. Whenever we set the intention for anything to really come together for us, especially if we recognize that we need to release and work through certain conditions, we always ask that the process be conducted with grace and ease, so that when we are having the experience, it's experienced with as minimal discomfort as possible. And as I said, this massive concentration of Capricorn energy in the chart that is cast, the lunar eclipse chart that is cast for the United States, the energy is concentrated in the 8th house. Now, the 8th house and the opposite house is the 2nd house. The 2nd and 8th house, both of those sectors are the chart, the areas of the chart that deal with money and money-related matters, the economy. If there's anything where regarding anything economically where there may be a compromise in the integrity of the economy, that is also very much being dissolved, so that we might establish some very strong foundations. The monetary system in the United States, especially since Uranus moved into the sign of all money-related matters, which is Taurus, the monetary system has been undergoing a restructuring process, which the outcome of all of this will be a system that is much more fair for every one of us. And certainly all of these experiences are offering us the opportunity to really recognize no one is to do without. Also, any element that has been keeping the population in a compromised state of financial well-being, all of those establishments are also being dissolved as well, because every one of us has, by birthright, really has the opportunity to enjoy abundance in all things, whether it be monetarily with money related matters or anything else that you would truly enjoy experiencing. When we create abundance, one of the things that I've suggested a long time ago that we be aware to also not necessarily miscreate, is abundance in the element of lack. Remember, there also can be abundance in the element of lack, and we do not want to miscreate that experience as well. As I said, whatever has been keeping humanity, the people, in a compromised state of financial well-being, like big banks, corporations, and structures who are very much steeped in greed, are being dissolved. All of that which has been suppressing us having that power over experience, which is also connected with Capricorn, is very much being dissolved. The groundwork is very much being laid out right now for us to build a very strong and stable economic foundation, but one that is much more fair and equal for every one of us. Elements, as I said, like large corporations, banks, even the stock market, they will not have a place in the coming times because they are certainly steeped in ego and greed, and only very few benefit, especially monetarily, from those establishments. In the long-term goal, rather in something that is unfolding over a period of many years, is really that, especially in the United States, we're being given the opportunity to become a self-governing society. Now, that element right there may not necessarily fully come together until after what we refer to as the Pluto return in the chart of the United States. A return chart is when a planet returns to the exact place it was at the moment of our birth. Many of us are familiar with what we refer to as solar return charts, that's when the sun returns to the exact position it was at the moment of our birth, indicating the start of our next year, when the planet has made one complete revolutionary cycle in the astrological chart. Now, a Pluto cycle is about 230 some odd years, and I'm not the exact time frame escapes me, but it's more than 200 years. It's about 200, like I said, 234, 235 years, when Pluto has made one complete evolution or revolution. I forget which is which, but anyway, in the astrological chart, that's an experience of something that is very much evolutionary. Wherever Pluto touches in the chart, it changes, it transforms. That complete cycle, and many times, actually, with every experience, with every Pluto return, that will only happen in charts of countries, because certainly we're not going to live over 200 years to experience that complete evolutionary change. But wherever Pluto touches, it transforms. So that complete cycle has indicated that Pluto has transformed every facet of our country. And once it comes together, that's when we will fully be given the opportunity as individuals to really know our power, and we will enjoy the experience of a government that has been created by the people, of the people, for the people. And again, I think I may not necessarily be saying that correctly, but I think you know what I mean. I digress a little bit, but I'm also trusting that you're understanding what I'm sharing with you regarding the significance of this eclipse season, especially with the next eclipse on July 4th, which will coincide with the birthday of the United States. Now, as I said, the exact Saturn-Pluto conjunction will be on January 12th, but it is very much emphasized at the time of the lunar eclipse on January 10th. A few days after the eclipse, Uranus, the planet of great change and awakening, does move direct in its orbit. It's been retrograde, I believe, since the summertime, maybe September, late summer, early fall. It's been retrograde. It is moving direct, and that will be exactly a couple of days after. a couple of days after the lunar eclipse. Now, our next new moon, it's in the sign which is ruled by Uranus, in the sign of Aquarius, and that is on January 24th of 2020. It's in the early degrees of Aquarius, and I've always emphasized that whenever an element is in the early degrees of a sign, those first few degrees very much connect with some of the greatest potentials of that sign. Uranus being the sign of the new age, the age of Aquarius. It's the one that represents progress, progression, progressive thinking, abstract thinking. Wherever this new moon is located in your charts, certainly you can feel some shifts and changes taking place, but also too, whatever sector of the chart that new moon is located would also bring you a greater, higher awareness of whatever sector of the chart is represented at the time. For example, if this new moon connects with your first house, which is yourself personally, you might have a greater sense of understanding about yourself. If it's located in your 10th house of the chart, which is career and profession, you may have a greater awareness, an awakening of what might serve a greater purpose for you regarding your profession, but also too, you may experience some great changes in your profession as well. Remember, we never want to allow ourselves to be fearful of change. Change is very creative and it fortifies growth. Whenever we are resistant to that change, we certainly interfere with the progress and throw a monkey wrench into the situation. But whenever we allow ourselves to fully embrace change, it also allows us to experience creativity at another level. And you see, creativity does not only connect with the arts, with music. Creativity is multifaceted. You know, some of us are very creative in our thoughts, with the way that we create our homes, cooking, whatever that might be. So allow yourself really to, whenever you feel change coming, notice how you are being inspired by spirit to perhaps recognize some things that you may not necessarily be aware of. And as I said, with the new moon being in the sign of great awakenings, the sign Aquarius, certainly change is very much present. And remember, change connects with creative growth and progress. As I said, Aquarius represents the age of Aquarius, and many times I'm asked about the actual onset of the age of Aquarius, and that the actual date, if you will, it's up for debate, and no one is actually really sure when we have crossed the threshold into that new age. By my calculations, I observe it to be in the early part of the year 2165, which coincides with the next coming together of Uranus and Neptune. The last time that Uranus and Neptune came together was in the late 80s, and it was exact from 89 to 93. And during the mid-60s, we certainly, with the song The Age of Aquarius, we heard that was the dawning of the age of Aquarius that really began the process of moving towards a time of humanitarianism, brotherhood, progressive thinking, higher thinking, a time where we all recognize that we are very much one. The process began in the 60s, especially with those who were born during the 60s. We are the ones who have ushered in this time. The ones who were born between 89 and 2000, between 89 and 1993 with that Uranus-Neptune conjunction. I refer to them as the children of Neptune. They are the ones who will be actually implementing all these higher thoughts and these higher thinkings. And once we have crossed that threshold, which certainly will it by my as again these are by my calculations, will be out of our time. We'll certainly enjoy that time of brotherhood. However, we do not have to wait until then to really enjoy those experiences. We are all being very much giving opportunities to enjoy these experiences right now, even though we are in times where that may seem very chaotic and very confusing. I've always said that chaos will always precede great change. However, whenever we have a chaos experience, I suggest to be the eye in the center of the storm. Step back from the experience, observe it, allow yourself to be in the world and not of it. Observe all that is happening from a place of detachment. It allows you to remain very, very peaceful and to recognize with clarity the greater purpose, the higher understanding of all that's unfolding in the outside world. We need to allow ourselves to be very still, very, very quiet, very, very peaceful. So when the great winds of change come along, we break and we do not bend. I certainly suggest, as I always inspire us to really embrace and encode in every day of our lives, anchor yourself with the energy of the earth. Remain peaceful, grounded. Work on clearing the energy of your being, on clearing the energy of your home. Archangel Michael suggests or inspires us to recognize that spirit will always guide us and the earth will sustain us. Spirit will guide you, the earth will sustain you. Remember these words during these times of great evolutionary change, which at the core every one of us is really being given an opportunity to recognize the many, many blessings that by birthright every one of us has the opportunity to enjoy. Once again, I thank you for allowing me to share this time with you and these insights. I trust that these experiences, that these suggestions inspire you on your journey. Always remain in the light, in a place of love. Namaste, many blessings. Allow yourselves to enjoy a year of abundance, perfect health, growth, prosperity, and very much being surrounded by love. Thank you once again, and I will see you all very soon. Many blessings.